What up, YouTube? Webhead Mike here, and I'm going to start by quoting Andrew Ryan. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. And now we can add, no, says Wizards of the Coast, it belongs to us. Now, this is obviously talking about the OGL that is being put out by Wizards of the Coast, the open game license as it was. Now, the original one, the 1.0, just essentially said, you're allowed to make content that is compatible with our product, just so long as you put this little disclaimer here at the beginning or end of your book. And for a long time, 30 years as a matter of fact, it has been very profitable for both of them, because even if you bought this third-party source, you still had to buy Wizards of the Coast product in order to make it playable. Now, one would have to wonder, what is up with this sudden change? After all, it worked for 30 years. Why change it now? Wizards of the Coast got pretty rich. Wizards of the Coast, owners of Dungeons & Dragons, currently got pretty rich off of it. So why change? Well, this is probably because the current leadership over there by Williams was originally a Microsoft person and tried to manage all of the monetary gains. And she was also recently quoted as saying, "We're trying to figure out how to further monetize the brand of Dungeons & Dragons." Well, here we go. Also, there's their one D&D that's trying to have a virtual platform. But VTT Foundry exists. Well, now them making 1.1, or whatever it is they're going to call it, looks to be nixing that. Now that sounds amazingly perverse and overreach of anything happening. So what is it? We got... Now the new OGL states, just like Andrew Ryan said, that anything you print under this licensing, Wizards of the Coast has the authorization to just take it, print it in their own book, and not give you any credit or monetary compensation. Now, I imagine anyone would be a fool to enter into this agreement just on that alone. So I imagine anyone who actually agrees to this has some clause somewhere that enables that to not happen, because it would be rather foolish to just make it and then someone else can just come along and you never get any money again from it. Another state of this is that if ever you make money while under this new licenseship, if you meet certain thresholds, you have to pay up Wizards of the Coast. Now, that's certain. Now, as a capitalist, I would have no problem with that, especially if there was another clause about, say, advertising, linked mutualities. This could be very profitable for both parties. However, simply stating that if you make $750,000 or more, and then you have to give up 25%, that could easily kill quite a few Kickstarter campaigns or Indiegogos or whatever crowdfunding campaign happens. Now, did they think about this ahead? Oh, you betcha. Oh, you betcha. Because again, they want to corner the market on this and be the only ones to have an avenue to pursue this hobby. Now, they're not... What are we supposed to say? What are we supposed to say to this? Oh, no, just give up on Wizards of the Coast. Well, it's very tempting to say that. It's very tempting to give up on Dungeons & Dragons, especially since just giving commentary on it falls under their 1.1 clause that they have any provision to just control whether or not you can say it or not, and then send you like a cease and desist. However, nothing is set in stone yet. There's still plenty of time to look at what's actually happening. Now, one thing we do know for sure is that the leaked 1.1 almost certainly is what is going to be going forward. Now, maybe they'll make some edits here and there, but by and large, this looks like what's going to be happening going forward. How do I know this? Because if it wasn't, they would be so quick to correct it. They wouldn't want any obfuscation, any confusion that, no, that was not us. We have something else in mind. And we know this because you look back at the Starjammer release when they came out with the Hidozi race. Within one day of someone making one complaint tweet, they re-edited it in D&D Beyond, and then further printings had that correction in it. Now, I think it was a silly, stupid correction that didn't need to happen. I mean, every race in D&D has been enslaved at one point or other by mind flayers. But hey, this isn't the video for lore. Actually, lore does factor into this because Wizards of the Coast can't really trademark game mechanics, but they can trademark lore and more things specific to the setting. So if you were to engage in lawfare, you would have a much stronger claim the more distinct it is from Dungeons & Dragons. Just saying you have, attributes like strength, dexterity, constitution, willpower, they don't have that. The more, that's pretty basic level. But if you start putting in a holy man and he has channel divinity as a feature, they might be able to get you on the channel divinity feature. But hey, I am still reading up on things. I've been looking up on Roll for Combat, Roll of Law. Runkle of the Bailey has got this unique bit where he's a lawyer and likes playing role-playing games, so he's pretty good at this. In a previous video, I'll link it up here, there was also talk about Roll for Combat talking about how he had another avenue of talking about this, where he had a PhD guy come in about almost a decade ago and talk about how the 1.0 or 1.0A OGL is pretty darn rugged and can exist forever. And that's the biggest thing. You can't just terminate a contract just because it benefits you. Now, I'm sure there'll be plenty of law happening, because ultimately people can say whatever they want, but what people can do and get away with ultimately ends up being the more important matter. Now, I'll still be looking more into this, but as it stands, guess what? There's other role-playing games out there. They're all much, much better than Dungeons & Dragons 5e, which I will coin as being the safe shallows of tabletop role-playing games. Why? Because, sure, you can do a lot of fun things here and there. You can tell some cool stories, cool concepts, but you're never going to get really deep, especially when you start loading in safety rules or have any other outside considerations like worrying about presentism. You're not really going to be using the system. Matter of fact, you might be abusing it. But hey, we'll see what happens going forward. There are other role-playing games out there like Cinematic Unisystem, Genesis, Blades in the Dark, Mecha Hack, Vampire the Masquerade, Mutants and Mastermind, the One Ring RPG, Dragonbane next year or later on this year. You have options. You're not limited to this. And even if you think you are, you still have the opportunity to fight and make your arguments. Because after all, it's not set in stone yet. That's all my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I thank you very much for listening along all this time. If you did like it, do drop a like. And until next time, Webhead Mike, out.